Hey guys, I see you starting to come on. Hi, exciting. This one's actually gonna go a little deep. But we're going to make sure that we close out today with like a really sweet, affirming energy. So, hey Mo. So come on in as you come in, as always. Say hi. Tell us where you're coming to us from. We will give everyone a few minutes to get on as usual, but not a ton of time. We'll probably start at maybe 5 after the hour, just so we try to start, staying within a time frame that works for people. I know some people are like on lunch or doing their thing and you need to get back to work. So I'm trying to be respectful of your time. There we go. Hey, Corinne. Hey guys, as you come on, go ahead and say hi in the chat. If you'd like to tell us what's going on for you or where you're at or what you're thinking about this morning or what declaration today got you going. For me, it's almost always, I've gotten to the place where I'm so grateful too about this, that, that thing about how like when your mind stills a little bit, there are just thoughts that come up naturally for you. Lately for me, that has been that particular one, right? I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracles shall follow miracles and wonders shall never cease. And like, that's the one that's got a ton of juice for me right now. A lot of the others do too. I choose to see it as a treasure when I find something new to release. I see and feel myself changing moment by moment. Thoughts and other people's issues no longer have any power over me. I am the power in my world and I choose to be free. There are so many of them that like, this is all on theme. Right now I'm just doing what I do, which is share my thoughts with you guys as we get close to starting in probably 3 or 4 minutes. Hey, Meredith. And what I was asking earlier is while we're waiting for people to come on, which you guys are coming on pretty rapidly right now, if you wanted to share like which affirmation or daily declaration is really working for you right now, that'd be a fun thing to drop into the chat. And, for me, it's often, my life is in transition a lot. Yes, I release all resistance. Hey, Santasha. But I love I almost no matter what's going on in the world, like, that I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracles shall follow miracles, wonders will never cease. I look with wonder at that which is before me. That is a fun one. Something about that makes me feel like I'm casting a spell that's going to make something wonderful happen today. Right? Which is like, maybe kind of true, but maybe there's wonderful things happening all the time. And what we're doing when we use our words that way, when we first get up before the rest of the world's energy can impact us, what we're doing is just sort of tuning ourselves in to see it, tuning ourselves in to follow those impulses. I love this. The best is yet to come. Everything is always working out for me. You guys, this chat is so real right now. You will get elevated and uplifted just by reading this chat right now. I release all resistance from Corinne. Monchelle says, I choose to see it as a treasure when I discover something new to release. Aparna, I move from the old to the new with ease and joy. TC, I'm always in the right place at the right time. That one is so real. And I don't know if you guys have been on the community page just since last night, but Christine is on there talking about this right now. Like she set her sort of vision and knew what she wanted to move into this month. And it's starting to happen without her doing all the work. She was in the right place at the right time. Dekiana, everything is always working out for me. Aparna, the best is yet to come. Meredith, my life is fresh and new. I love these. I am fresh and new and vital. And while we still have a minute, the fresh and new thing is like actually no joke. It sounds really simple and like sweet, and it is, but it's actually kind of deep because that is every day. every day that's available to us, to be fresh and new every day, to be fresh and new and vital. This is a new day. I am a new me. These, I actually know these by heart because I have said them for years. This is a new day. I am a new me. I think differently. I speak differently. I act differently. Other people treat me differently. Sabrina, everything is always working out for me. Olivia's in the house. All right, we have 1 minute to go before we get started. So let me just, I like this, Santasha. I'm a magnet for divine health and well-being. All is well. Monchelle, all is well in my world. Now, Monisha says this as not just an affirmation. She says it not just an affirmation formally in the morning or during her ritual. She says it in speech a lot. And I will tell you, I think one of the things that I've seen happen in my life, I see it in her a lot. I see it in a number of my other really friends who are in this and doing this intentional growth in their own lives. You start to see their declarations and affirmations trickle over into their daily speech, which is a little like you just start using your whole life to wire yourself for this, right? And you notice it even in the little just flip, quote unquote throwaway comments you say. Like if someone asks me for something and I don't necessarily want it, I'll just say, oh, I'm good, right? And it's like, I am actually good. No worries. No worries. Actually, no worries, right? Yes, Sabrina's mic drop was kind of amazing, actually. She literally was sitting at my kitchen table in my house and said, the world rewards hard work, the universe rewards deep trust. I was like, wow, you just can drop the mic there, Sabrina. So yes, the more we do these things, you know what we're doing in some ways? We're giving the thoughts that the fresh, new, emotionally mature adult conscious us, awakening us, we are giving that person that we're becoming the opportunity to choose our thoughts and to give the thoughts that we've chosen a chance against the thoughts that we had that were instilled in us earlier in life when we weren't necessarily on such a path of intention and consciousness in choosing what we think about, right? So you're giving your new beliefs a chance to take root and to take more and more and more. Some of you are marketers, right? We think about mind share a lot in marketing. How to get more share of someone's mind. This is what you're doing when you do affirmations and declarations. You're giving your chosen intentional thoughts more mind share. And over time, well, actually, this segues us right on into what we're going to talk about today. What I'm going to do with you today, we're doing this call in 2 parts. It's going to be super fun. This is the first time Monisha and I have ever done this, but I think it's going to be beautiful. And it's been very intentional. So my part 1, we're going to segue into right now. I'm calling it sort of a belief upgrade. Part 2, Monisha's going to come down and host. And part 2 is, think of it as like an energy upgrade, right? We're going to upgrade our vibration. Now, that sequence is intentional because as we talk about belief upgrade, we're going to, as you've seen with all of this work, when you step into the circle, you can actually stir up some of your limiting beliefs. I know some of you are seeing that, right? Because you're essentially pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, outside of where you've been before. All of the things that have been limitations for you in the past will show up. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And so there's a way in which just having these conversations can actually stir some stuff up. Fortunately, it also stirs up the assistance of the power that fuels this universe. So we're good, but it can be a little uncomfortable. So what I want to do is we're going to talk through the belief upgrade process, and then Monisha's going to come and create an experience for us that creates an energy and what she calls a vibrational upgrade, so that we will leave here feeling really great. We will not leave you just being like, oh my gosh, I got all this stuff I got to work through. Okay, does that work for everyone? I'd love some eyes or hand raises or something. Are we good to move forward, guys? Yes. Yes, awesome. See, great. Multilingual eyes, awesome. Okay, so we're in transition month, and at this stage of the month, I know enough to know that you guys basically know what you want. right? You know what you desire on the other side of this transition. And just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that your whole transition is going to happen in this month. I'm suggesting we're going to learn a new way of doing transitions with focus on one this month. So you generally know what it is that you desire, whether it is more ease in moving through a transition that is not wanted, but you're going through it, or whether there is a specific sort of transition or area of your life you'd like to see upgrade. So you know that you want a healthy body or a new way of being in the world, or you're going through a career transition or a relationship transition. You kind of know the general of that now. But we've talked a lot in the time that we've known each other about that internal resistance that so often arises when you set your eyes on that kind of thing. When you know that you're ready to expand in an area of your life, a lot of times that stirs some resistance up. And resistance looks really different for different people. It looks really different within the same person across different areas of their life, right? It might be really easy for someone to transition into ease and flow with respect to their finances and harder with respect to relationships or vice versa. What I want to sort of lay as a foundation is that the cause of a lot of our inner resistance is often a belief that conflicts with your desire or your desire to change or your desired way of being, or a behavioral pattern that arises from a belief that conflicts with your desire. So I'm going to preview a little bit tomorrow's email for you. The way I like to think of like your desires, your desired state on the other side of transition, the way you want to be, do, have in the world, and resistance is like, it's a little like you have one of your feet on the gas and one of your feet on the brake, right? Like desire is the foot on the gas. Desire is your internal drawing to expand in an area of your life. And a limiting belief or a resistant thought or a limiting behavioral pattern is the brake. And so imagine what happens if you're in your car and you step on the gas and the brake at the same time. You don't go anywhere, right? And this is true with respect to like levels too. If you're stepping way on the gas and a little on the brake, you'll probably go, but you'll go slow, or it'll be like really painful and you'll hear some like real pain inside your car, right? So as we talk about those, the ways that inner resistance shows up, the ways that resistant thought processes and beliefs show up. As you know, one of my favorite references on that is Stephen Pressfield, and he kind of lists out the ways that resistance shows up, resistant thought shows up in response to your dream or desire. So it can look like fear, it can look like self-doubt, it can look like self-sabotage or procrastination. It can look like shadow careers, right? Taking on careers where, it's not quite what you really want to be doing in life, but it's got a little piece of that. And so you kind of like make it work. It can take on resistance and limiting beliefs can take on the form of addiction to drink, to drugs, to love, to money, to chaos, to chaotic relationships. And then, that's his list. And then I usually add some other things that I see a lot in the conscious creators and conscious and ambitious uplifters that I work with. I see a lot of sort of limiting beliefs and resistance show up in the form of chronic distraction. Like there's always something popping up in life that pulls you off of focus. Dwelling in grudges and grievances about the past. Perfectionism. Over planning and overthinking. Here's one that someone might relate to: asking unsupportive people for their opinions on your calling, your vision, or your dreams. If that's a habit for you, that can often be a sign that there's some internal resistance. You're basically asking someone to reject your dreams. Playing small, having feelings of unworthiness, feelings of guilt about how great your life is, or generally failing to give yourself and your desires and the resources they need to thrive and to grow. All of those things can be forms of resistance. And to the extent that they interfere with your desires and the transitions that you want to make in your life, all of these forms of resistance are symptoms of limiting beliefs, right? So the resistance sparks up, but the resistance is a sign that there's a belief under there that is not consistent with what you actually want. And so really definitionally, limiting beliefs are just any belief that interferes with or is different from the idea that what you desire can be yours, or can, you know, the way you want to be can be the way you actually are. And most often, let's see, I want to be careful on how I choose my words in this next piece. Most often, these limiting beliefs like this that interfere with your desires arise from either a large or a little remnant of scarcity or unworthiness belief, all right? And I know a lot of us have already learned how to spot our scarcity stories or spot unworthiness stories. A lot of us have done a lot of work, so we don't feel like, you know, you're not necessarily showing up being like, I'm unworthy all the time, but we come out of the trances of scarcity and worthiness in levels and somewhat gradually. So for a lot of us, it's actually the blessing of trying to make transitions and having desires. Those things help stir up and surface for us where there still may be remnants of scarcity and or unworthiness belief happening. So for example, as like a remnant of a scarcity belief is like the struggle is real, or I want this thing and it's going to be really hard, or what I want is too big and too hard for me to have. The asking yourself questions like, who am I to want that? I have so much already. Or it's saying, thinking it's greedy to want more than I have. There's really not enough. So many people in the world don't have, you know, enough. Who am I to want more than what I have? A scarcity belief that I see in people who've done a lot of work already is, I'm running out of time. I feel like I'm running out of time. I feel like it's too late for me. I feel like I'm too old to want that. And also a chronic focus on what could go wrong tends to also have its roots in scarcity belief and scarcity thinking. All right. So those are some ways that are like, it's not just you thinking like the whole world, there's, you know, the world is scarce, but there can be remnants of that that show up when you try to, you know, move out of your comfort zone and reach for more. By the same token, unworthiness, there are often remnant level unworthiness beliefs like that come up when you envision a transition. Like, there's a little bit of something wrong with me, so I probably can't actually have that. Or I don't deserve that really, so I have to be perfect. I have to do it perfect. I have to go so hard. I have to hustle. I have to make it happen. I have to grind. You hear people say like, no days off. You know, that's a different energy than saying, gosh, I just love this is what I say. I love my work. I love my customers. I love the emails they send me. Like, I read them all because I actually love them. That's a different energy than like, I don't really deserve to have this life, so I have to be perfect. Unworthiness says, I can't do that, or I've never done that, so it's probably not really possible. Unworthiness says, I've always been abandoned or alone, or I've always been broke, and I'm not sure, like, I can't really be other than that. Unworthiness says, I'm not the kind of person who does that. Like, that kind of life or that level of ease is not available to me. And unworthiness sparks a focus often on the idea that like, I have to get this decision right. Like, I've made bad decisions in the past and I can't make another bad decision. I have to get this one right. And that often keeps people stuck because you can't, first of all, there is no wrong decision you can ever make because every decision gets you closer to clear, closer to fulfillment, closer to the joy you're meant to have. And, you know, transitions, even done the divine timing and order way, do not always look super linear. It's not the case that that next decision you make will necessarily lead you to your immediate desired result, right? It might take a little path or years or who knows. But that feeling like I can't make a decision because I have to get this one right does have its roots in unworthiness. So you already kind of know and are doing, I see you guys practicing it, spotting scarcity stories, spotting unworthiness stories. And you've learned or started to practice, many of you, like taking that sacred pause when those thought loop habits come up. and just starting to see them and call them out. And like, it's actually so powerful when you guys share that stuff on the community page. Just calling it out on its own puts a lot of space around it and can basically kickstarts the process of releasing it once you see it. What I want to do for the rest of our time today, so probably for the next like 15, 20 minutes, is go back to basics and like talk really quickly about what a belief actually is, so we can take the daunting factor out of unlearning it. It's not actually that scary. We're going to talk really quickly about what a limiting belief is. We're going to talk about how to spot them and how to release them. That's the rest of this time. Does that work? All right. I know that releasing limiting beliefs seems like a hard thing. Like, you can spot them, but like figuring out how to release them seems like a hard thing. And in some ways, I think that even I've been saying the word unlearn, and I'm going to sit with and explore whether that word needs tweaking, because the one thing I want to make sure one of the things I want to make sure you leave this call knowing is that you don't actually have to go back on every resistant belief and figure out how you learned it or where you got it from in order to release it. All right. Now, sometimes that does happen. That's a little bit of what yesterday's prompt was about, right? Where I'm like, oh, I had this conversation. I was having this thing with my younger self. And like, I realized that she had all these things she had put in place because she needed them and they really worked for her. And they didn't really work for me anymore. And we didn't need them anymore. So we kind of called a truce and made an agreement with each other. Okay. Sometimes that happens. And sometimes that's super useful because just knowing that, oh, I got this because I developed this because I needed it and it served me well. And now that makes it very easy to think and release a painful or limiting belief. But you don't always have to do that, right? There are actually a number of approaches to what I'm going to talk about today is upgrading your beliefs. And I want to offer them to you in sort of this systematic way as we're having a systematic conversation about belief upgrades. Not because I want you to like try doing all of these things at once, but so that you can be aware of them and you can have them in your sort of mental file as ways you can release beliefs. And what will happen is pretty naturally, you'll start trying some of them on with respect to your specific transition, with respect to your specific belief. I'm planting a seed here. I'm going to reference a lot of, some other materials, like other bodies of work that you can explore if you so choose. And we're going to see this. You're going to naturally find yourself experimenting with different ones. And you may even find yourself just in the process experiencing like a shift in a belief as you learn about a different way of doing belief upgrade. All right. So first, what is a belief? It is just a habit of thought. It is a thought you've been thinking that's been wired in through repetition. So when we have limiting beliefs, they serve as sort of the backdrop for how we understand and think about our lives. And then we tell all of the stories about our life and who we are through the lens of our limits. And we do that. Everyone does that. We do it over and over and over again. And the more we wire in the belief by repeating our stories or even in our own heads, the more we focus on that way of looking at the world. These beliefs all beliefs are self-fulfilling, self-validating, and self-reinforcing. So, and that's all it is. It's actually really simple. Beliefs are habits of thought wired in through repetition, and they are self-fulfilling, self-validating, and self-reinforcing. I know y'all are note takers because I am a note taker too, and like attracts like. So I'm going to say that again. Beliefs are habits of thought. Actually, Sabrina, you're here. Can you maybe type this into the chat? I see Michelle doing it. Thank you. Beliefs are habits of thought wired in through repetition, and they are self-fulfilling, self-validating, and self-reinforcing. That's it. Now, here's what's fun about knowing this. Catch this principle. If you don't focus on it and you don't repeat it, beliefs dissipate over time. Okay? What you focus on and repeat over and over and over again grows and wires in It's self-fulfilling, it's self-validating, it's self-reinforcing. Things will begin to happen in the world that then validate your belief. If you don't focus on it and you don't repeat it, they do tend to dissipate over time. They starve for lack of attention. And this is true for any belief, whether it's a limiting belief or an expansive belief, right? So that's why I think when we were studying the 4 agreements, Santasha asked, like, aren't we just trading like one set of stories for another? The answer is yes, we are. So we may as well choose the upgraded version of that story, right? Now, how do you identify a limiting belief? It's actually not that hard. Limiting beliefs, when you think them, make you feel like stuck. They make you feel bad. A limiting belief never really feels good. A limiting belief feels like stuck and standstill. And that's like my short answer. A limiting belief makes you feel bad when you think about what you want because it feels like you can't have it or like it's too much for you to even want. Now, you know a lot about scarcity and unworthiness. I've listed some beliefs. You can spot them that way too. Like you just now know that, and will never again not know that these scarcity beliefs and unworthiness beliefs are necessarily limiting. Also, one thing that so once you know that, like you do now, you'll see it all the time. I already see this happening in you guys. You see and hear yourself saying things and you're like, wait a second. You see and hear yourself. Dr. Evelyn posted on the community page the other day. I was in bed lying there thinking this thing and I was like, whoa, I didn't even that's what I've been thinking. That's why I've been holding on to this, right? So once you know, you just start to see it. There's a part in your brain responsible for this. I'm not going to go into it, but there's a piece of your brain called the reticular activating system that once you activate it around a fact or you teach it a thing, you just start to see it more. So that's like neurological. The other thing I'll say is that free writing helps. So when you're doing your writing, now, the prompted writing is structured specifically to guide you through some of this, but as you do free writing, you'll start to see your own self-talk in a different way. So that's how you identify a limiting belief is it feels bad when you think about your desire. It feels like you can't have it. It feels like it's impossible or it feels like too much. It feels like stuck. Now, this is some more note-taking stuff. The reason your limiting beliefs feel bad is that they conflict with the divine truth about you. They conflict with your own deep, innate, inborn, divine inner guidance. Because it's your inner guidance that wants to do the thing, wants to be the thing, wants to have the thing, wants to have this new way of being. Your inner guidance and inner being always want expansion for you and they want the best for you. So when you are holding a limiting belief that won't let you go there, that always feels bad. It always feels bad. And so that's why it always feels bad and it's good that it feels bad, and here's why. Anytime you do what we're doing as an exercise right now together, guys, which is like to envision our desire, to envision how we would like our life to be in the next season, and to embody that, to start, feeling how we want to feel in that, to start finding and practicing and reveling in and walking in that feeling. When you step into the circle with respect to your desired transition, when you start radically accepting your life as it is right now and the way you want it to be, all of these limiting beliefs will start to come up. They will start to stir up, they will spark up, and it will feel grindy because you're not yet moving into who you're becoming. You haven't yet gotten all the way on board with who your inner being wants you to be or is already becoming, because that stuff can't come with you into your next season. Those limiting beliefs can't come with you. So when you step into the circle, when you envision and you embody, they show up specifically so you have the opportunity to release them because they can't come with you. The way I've been thinking about this or trying to create a visual around this is this, and it's like silly, but it kind of works really well. Imagine you're like a 5-year-old person and you're wearing 5-year-old person clothes and you grow, but you don't change your clothes, right? You still have all the 5-year-old clothes on. You still have your 5-year-old jeans on, your 5-year-old shoes on, your 5-year-old shirt on, but you grow, mature, your body matures into a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. Those clothes will start to feel real bad. The way you've been operating, the way what you've been wearing will start to feel tight. It'll start to constrict you. It'll start to chafe. They'll start to tear because those clothes can't come with you into your 7-year-old body, right? So that's, Manisha has talked to us about how like contraction, friction is always precedes the expansion. Contractions precede birth in people, right? That's a little bit what can happen. So if you start to walk into the circle, you start to envision and embody your thing, and then all this resistance comes up, like that's why we say, I choose to see it as a treasure when I discover something new to release. I choose to see it as a treasure when I discover something new to release, because that discovery is growth. It is a sign that you're growing, all right? It's not always fun, but it's a sign that you're growing. So when you envision and you embody, you trigger, you may stir up that resistance so that you have the opportunity to release it. And let's practice radical acceptance with whatever the process of releasing it looks like for you. We're going to talk through some ways you can approach it intentionally. The good thing is you stir up one other big thing. When you envision and embody your desired way of being and doing in this world, you also stir up and trigger and put a call out for guidance, for divine guidance, for divine inspiration, right? For divine ideas, for the right, for the next right step, for the next right impulse, for the next right timing, for the next right opportunity, for the next right partner. This is what happens if you do decide, as I kind of challenge you to in today's email, to let the divine handle the how. Because just by virtue of envisioning and embodying it and being willing to allow resistance to come up and be released in divine time, you have also put out a call for like guidance. And the divine, God, source, spirit will start showing up in the form of your golden threads that you receive, in the form of your being in the right place at the right time. And this is part of why I said in last week's call, which some of you guys just got the recap of, if you do all this hard work in over planning and overthinking the how, you actually make it harder to hear the divine answers that are already trying to come to you, right? You make it harder to hear. You make it harder to hear those answers. So some of what we're doing every day with our de-chaosing practice is just dialing that overthinking, that planning, that how, the chaos of like, gotta do it, gotta make it happen with my own hard effort and action. We're just dialing that down a little bit so we can invite and receive guidance. And this month, one of our big sort of learnings, I hope, is that when you do receive it, you act on it when it comes, right? Whether that's a little tiny guidance, like go take a walk in this weird park that you don't go to, or brush your teeth now versus later, or a big guidance like, here is your 3-year business plan. Manisha and I have this friend, Artie, who's a meditation teacher, and that's what Artie says. He says, when inspiration speaks to him, sometimes it tells him his whole 3-year business plan in a moment, not through hard effort. Like it is clear, kind of like my download for School of Upliftment, right? Doesn't mean you don't have to do anything to make it happen, but it's like clear, and it's clear fast. And sometimes inspiration just tells him, go get a burrito. And he's like, I don't know what the burrito part was about. Like maybe I just wanted a burrito. But when you act on inspiration consistently when it comes, all of your transitions get easier and more flowful, because you're not having to do it all on your own, right? You're not having to do it all on your own. All right, so let's go to, now I want to take a couple minutes and talk through a series of ways we can approach releasing beliefs. Actually, let me check the chat really quick. All right. Yes, y'all are amazing. Okay. There's a series of ways you can approach releasing beliefs. Now, there's sort of a couple of ways that are very systematic, and people who are like thinkers will appreciate them. If you like a system, you're gonna like a couple of these. And I've talked about them briefly before. I'm gonna talk about them briefly again. One is radical acceptance. Radical acceptance, which is also just like an overarching good practice for a conscious life. And a life of ease and joy versus like struggle is real, like that. Radical acceptance, the authoritative book on radical acceptance is a Tara Brach book. So Tara spelled like my name, but Brach, B-R-A-C-H. Sabrina, can you maybe drop the link to radical acceptance into the chat? I know some of you guys know it because I've mentioned it before, but in radical acceptance, there's sort of a system that's like RAIN. The acronym is RAIN, R-A-I-N. You recognize what's happening when a limiting belief kind of comes up. You allow life to be just as it is, just allow it to be as it is. And in the space you create there, you investigate that experience with kindness. You get curious about what's going on with you there, which some of the other systems we'll talk about will help you do. That's kind of why I'm bringing this one up first. And the N in RAIN stands for non-identification. Let's see if I can drop this into that, guys. You guys see that? This is from Radical, well, yes, from the book that Sabrina just dropped the link in. So that is what we don't want to do is have resistant beliefs come up and then just be like judgy and pushing against them and like, this feels bad, I don't like it, I want to make it happen, so I'm going to push against it. I want, as you explore this process of letting your limiting beliefs come up and thinking about how to approach the process of releasing them, no matter which system you work through to do that, try to look at it through a lens of radical acceptance. First, be okay with the way things are right now and like take a sacred pause in that, and then kindly get curious about what's going on and what you're ready to release. Okay, versus like pushing against, which kind of entangles you in it. And I do see this a lot with some of the people that are new to this kind of work, where as soon as they realize they have a limiting belief, they start saying things like, I have to undo that, I have to fix that about myself. That approach basically never really works to create a life of more freedom, growth, and joy. Right? And that's our ultimate objective here. So like radical acceptance as a backdrop for exploring and investigating our inner experience does actually work for releasing these limiting beliefs and having more freedom, growth, and joy in the process. Another thing that kind of just works is life experience. Like you have these opportunities in your life to disprove your limiting beliefs to yourself by virtue of reflecting on how often that's not been true for you. A while back, I was dealing with I was noticing some scarcity beliefs come up, and I was having this conversation with a friend and about how, 4 generations ago, my family was in slavery, and the life I live right now is, I've never missed a meal in this life. I started just kind of thinking through and inventorying the incredible abundance and prosperity I've received in this life, and was like, that belief just isn't even true. Like I literally, back on a factual basis, I do have no reason to ever feel that way. And there was a real power in that moment of shift where I was like, that belief comes from somewhere else. It's not mine. And in that moment, of course, I'd done a lot of work on it before then too, but in that moment, I had this real shift of an experience of just being like, it's just not actually factually true, some of the things that I was saying to myself about money. Similar to what Manish and I talked about last week, where I had this, old lingering belief around how few good men there were. And just on reflection, I was like, that's not actually even factually true in my own life experience. So sometimes I'm walking you through disproving limiting beliefs to yourself in the prompts. That is a theme of some of the writing prompts this month. Like, tell the story of the time when, helps you realize that that story is just a story and is not necessarily been factually true. Speaking of truth, so the first way that we talked about releasing beliefs was radical acceptance. The second way we talked about was life experience, reflecting and contemplating and disproving some of our limiting beliefs to ourselves by seeing that our life experience has actually already disproved it. The third is to actually do intentional reframes on stressful beliefs. And that I'm not going to walk you through that whole system right now, but the system I like for reframing is called The Work. We've referenced it before. It's a body of work by a woman named Byron Katie. And I've just dropped into your chat a link to this worksheet she offers for free on her site about how to literally question, how to approach and question and reframe stressful beliefs. So there are some people for whom I have not used the work personally extensively. I have used it years ago on a couple of really entrenched beliefs and found it very helpful. So I offer that to you. Feel free to try it on. Next is what we do every day in this school, dechaosing and rewiring. Probably the most easy way of releasing resistance is to like stop practicing the limiting belief and practice new powerful ones. Replant new empowering beliefs into your soul and in your system, and give them a chance to wire in with intention and focus. Give them a chance to kind of crowd out the others and stop practicing the others. And so we're going to talk more about this in the masterclass, but I want to sort of offer this to you quickly now, that there's a kind of sacred pause you can take that can be very powerful if you are embarking on a transition that is really, that you're finding a lot of deep or old resistance to. And it's really fancy. It's called change the subject. It's called think about something else that does make you feel the way you want to feel, right? So you're thinking about your transition. You know kind of what you want it to be. You're envisioning it and practicing stepping into the circle, envisioning like with every sense, not just vision, with vision and smell and touch and everything, envisioning what it will be like to be in this circle where everything you need is, where your desire is already true present tense. You envision, you embody, as you do that, you stir up the resistance so it can be released. You also stir up guidance so it can come in. You dechaos, you rewire. And along the way, you identify how you want to feel as a result of this transition. Why do you want it? You want it so you can feel a certain way, right? And if your resistance that's been coming up is very strong or very old or feels hard to budge, that's a sign that you might want to try changing the subject. Shift your focus to like literally stop thinking about the subject matter of your desire and shift your focus to other subjects that make you feel the way you want to feel. All right, stop thinking about that subject, because as you do, if your limiting beliefs keep coming up and they're old and they're entrenched, they just kind of keep wiring themselves in. Think about something else that makes you feel how you want to feel. That's why I said when I was like on my sort of journey around love, I just started being with people who I felt love with, doing things that made me feel the way I wanted to feel in love more and more and more. And as I found and focused on those feelings, they just started to take over more and more mind share in my life. And the old beliefs, just because I stopped practicing them over time, they got crowded out. They died from lack of attention. So some of these things are systems. Some of these things are just ways of being in your daily life. The one thing they all have common is to stop rehashing and stop retelling the scarcity or unworthy or limiting belief story to other people and in your head. And as I get to the close here, what I want to share with you is And if you have questions on what we've talked about so far, this is probably a good time to drop them in, because I'm gonna probably call Monisha down in like 2 or 3 minutes. I want to share with you this concept that was very shift-inducing for me when I first learned about it way back in grad school. And one of the questions that comes up for people like you guys, smart people doing this process, doing this work, is like, why do I keep telling myself these stories? Like, I know they're painful and limiting. Why do I keep doing this? Does anyone else ever have that question? I used to have that question. Like, you're trying to stop doing it with willpower, but it's still like in your head, right? The reason we keep doing this, or one major reason we keep doing this, is that we're getting something out of it. We are experiencing some of what a psychologist would call a payoff for telling ourselves this limiting story, holding on to this limiting belief, persisting in the resistant thought or behavior. We are getting a need. Let me say this a different way. We are getting a need met by doing it. And that is one big reason why it can be challenging to let go of some old beliefs. So the subject matter of payoffs is a place we can go to start to understand why we're so invested in holding on to these beliefs, what need we're fulfilling with our limiting beliefs. And so then we can go get that need met another way, or realize that we've outgrown it, we no longer need it, and release it. Okay. So I want to share in my last couple of, my last couple moments here, I want to share kind of a list of payoffs for holding on to limiting beliefs, in the hopes that someone may hear one and be like, oh, okay, maybe I am actually getting that. That's the need that's being met by this belief. I can maybe, release that, or I'll share a couple ways you can deal with it. This is not a new source for judgment. This is not a new reason to judge yourself. It's more like an aha-like moment having conversation. So some of the payoffs we get from holding on to our limiting beliefs include distraction. We are able to be distracted from our underlying feelings of loneliness, or fear, or sadness, or anxiety. That often happens when we think we have to like overwork, or with overeating, or with chaotic relationships and keeping a chaotic calendar, being over busy. Often we do that to distract us from an underlying feeling that's not uncomfortable. Our limiting beliefs in some ways can feel like a way of taking care of ourselves. They are soothing sometimes, because they allow us to not have to pay attention to a deeper issue that's going on. So a lot of times when someone's trying to make a transition and they experience deep anxiety or imposter syndrome, they may revert to like compulsive eating or compulsive other behaviors as a way to soothe that deeper anxiety or take care of themselves. Let's talk about sympathy and attention. Sometimes, like, especially for like really accomplished people who are so independent, nobody really ever tries to take care of them. Some people sometimes we hold on to limiting beliefs because they get us sympathy or they get us attention. It's like our way of saying poor me for ourselves, or crying out for help. It's a way to get people that care about us to show us what feels like love. So sympathy and attention. Another big common payoff of limiting beliefs is approval, or admiration, or status, or rewards, or money. If we have this unworthiness thing that's saying we have to be perfect and do things perfect and overachieve and overaccomplish, that also has the payoff of approval and money. So it can be hard to like stop doing that stuff, even though it may limit us from moving into a new season of ease in our life. There are some people who've had really challenging early life relationships with family members, and continuing to tell that story of like grievance or grudge actually, in a weird way, maintains their emotional connection with those people. This is especially common with people who, have been abandoned by a parent early in life. They tell that story a lot, and it's like the only way that they feel close to that person. Some of our limiting beliefs pay off in terms of helping us avoid taking responsibility for our own lives. And like, especially, this comes up a lot with people, it has come up in my past, with people who've had a childhood that was traumatic. There's a way in which that allows us to not let our current life be about our current actions, right? We're we are able to defer taking responsibility for certain areas of our life by continuing to tell the story of the limits of our childhood. Here are some others I'm going to say really fast. It feels familiar. It just is what feels normal. Limiting beliefs can feel like they're part of your identity. You know, I have a friend who says all the time, I'm the fat chick. That's just who I am, right? And it's like, I don't have a problem with her. I actually don't have a problem. I think people, some of the women who I know that identify as fat are like the fiercest, most gorgeous women I know, and they like that word. So I'm not going to say they shouldn't use that word, but saying like there's a way in which for this particular person, because she says that as a reason why she doesn't want to do a bunch of things that would actually be just helpful in her life, or as a reason for not putting herself out to like date and do other things. So it's limiting her from things that she actually wants to have in her life. Some of that is just like an identity thing, right? Like it feels familiar. It feels like part of my identity. This limiting belief feels like a thing I bond with other people over. This grudge or grievance just feels like who I am. On the other side, it can feel right and righteous. It can feel like I tell this story about how I was treated as a child because, and I've heard someone say this, I did these notes before I heard someone say this, but because giving it up would let the people who hurt me off the hook. And this belief allows me to be right and them to be wrong. And that goes back a little bit to what Monisha was saying the other day with anger. Sometimes those things give you a sense of power. They make you feel like you have a way of standing up for yourself and defending yourself and being vigilant against future harms. They can give you a sense of excitement and intensity. They can allow you to avoid saying your part in a troubling situation. But when you see these payoffs and you're like, oh, that's why I keep doing that belief, you can start to ask yourself like, is this is the payoff? Is this actually causing me to limit myself from moving fully into the circle and receiving my divine inheritance? How can I get this need met without the payoff, right? And now you can start to notice that like when the limiting belief arises and you let it arise, you can start to feel the underlying feeling that's being assuaged with the limiting belief. Right? You can decide not to give into it, not to change your behavior, or play small, or hold yourself back from doing what you want to do, moving into your next season because of it. You can make a decision, a conscious grown-up you now decision about whether you want to put a necessary ending to your resistant thoughts or your resistant behaviors, and you can start doing those steps. And you can also like maybe work through this with another person, especially if it's about early childhood stuff. Sometimes working through it with a therapist or a close friend that you can call when you have these beliefs come up and you're like wanting to sit with them and let them process out, but it feels really intense. It can be really helpful to have someone else to talk to. Now, if you have questions, drop them in. I'm going to ask Monisha to come down and help us close this time out with a little more groundedness and lovely energy. I will say, remember radical acceptance as we like go through this process, because it can be unsettling. It can crack you open a little bit. So remember, when something comes up and it's uncomfortable, recognize what's happening. Allow it to be, allow life to be what it is. Decide to investigate your inner experience when you choose to in your own time with kindness, and don't identify with it. You're not this thing who needs fixing. You are you. You have a right to be in this universe and on this planet. And now Monisha's going to help us ground our time out. Come on in, though. And you know what, guys? Today I'm looking at the chat. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat today. I may actually send you some follow-up notes from this, because I know that was a lot of information. So I may send you a little note sheet that has some of the payoffs listed, although Sabrina did a pretty good job of recapping them here. And let me make sure we did. Okay, good, great. I will do that. And I'm gonna actually I'm gonna sit here and take advantage of Monisha's guidance right now too.
I'm so happy to be here.
I know what y'all are in for, and it's real good.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be with you again. It's amazing to me that I'm looking at a computer screen and seeing these beautiful comments, and I just feel so connected to you. Yeah, I'm grateful for technology right now. So, you've been talking about transitions. Tara just gave some really amazing information about beliefs and limiting beliefs. So I'm just going to guide us through a simple meditation, visualization, where we can start to rewire those beliefs. And there's a few things why this works and why this is so powerful is because one, we're going to start by engaging the breath, and then I'm going to lead you through a visualization. And so when we engage the breath, we're getting our body involved with the beautiful power of the imaginative mind. And the combination of those two things is a very powerful punch when rewiring our beliefs. So we're gonna get into it, okay? Y'all ready?
Do you see my eyebrows?
All right, everyone. So we can all go ahead and close our eyes. And get yourself into a comfortable seat. Letting go of anything we were doing before this moment and anything that you have to do after this is complete, and really allow yourself the luxury of settling into this present moment. And the way I'm going to encourage you to do that is by paying attention to your inhales and your exhales. This beautiful life force energy moving through every cell of our body. And the sacred pause, when oriented around the breath, is such a beautiful way to cleanse the internal environment. Inhaling and exhaling. Allowing each round of breath to relax your nervous system, open your heart, and clear your mind. Trusting that whatever your experience is in this moment is perfect, because you're always in the right place at the right time. Beautiful. Now from this place, centered within, I invite you to use that beautiful imagination of yours to visualize yourself at the edge of a beautiful cliff. Looking forward towards the horizon, you see below you the most epic environment, the place that you want to be. You visually see what your heart desires. You feel in every cell of your being your wholeness, your completeness, your worthiness. And you're standing there at the edge of this cliff, looking down, knowing that you're gonna have to jump in order to land in the field of your dreams. And as you do, you feel that, those little bits of anxiety and doubt creeping in. Can I do it? Will I land? Will I fall? What will happen? And as those limiting beliefs creep up into your being, you look back to the land behind you, what you had been living in the past. And you can easily see what you'll be leaving behind. And a part of you wants to hold to those things for safety, maybe fear, comfort. Yet there's something in you beckoning you, calling you forward to your heart's true desires. So you lovingly let go of what has been, thoughts, feelings, ways of being that limit you from where you truly desire to be. You lovingly watch them fly away with the wind, thanking them with real gratitude for what they have done to serve you. And now, with a courageous heart, you focus forward again, looking at that beautiful land ahead of you, your own personal utopia, what you are designed for. And you remember. You feel that beat in your heart, playing to the rhythm of your favorite music. You remember in every cell of your beautiful body, mind, and spirit who you are and what you're made of. You remember that you are whole and complete. You remember that you are divinity manifest. You remember that you are an extension of source energy. You remember that you are here to create, to enjoy, to express, to connect. And with all of that moving through your body, you jump forward to the land of your dreams. And as you jump, you realize that, wow, you actually have wings. So now you're not just tumbling forward, you are flying, you are soaring above all that you desire. And as you float above this beautiful land, the one that you've created through your divine design, you gently land on the ground, taking in the beautiful scenery around you, your own personal universe, your own personal utopia, the orbit that you created. Resting, breathing in and out, inhaling and exhaling into every cell of your being. This possibility, this reality, this truth. Enjoying the view, my dear friends. And on your own time, when you're ready, you can open your eyes, presence yourself back in the room that you sit with a big old smile on your face, trusting, believing, knowing that this is where you belong.
That was fun. Seriously.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's our time today. If you have any remaining questions or comments, feel free to put them into the chat. Look, do you hear how sexy my voice got after that meditation? You guys hear that? I got like all R&B like DJ. With that. You know what just happened, but kind of great. It's Natasha. No, I'm glad you saw it, right? I know, it's got like grown and sexy night on K something. I was gonna say KQED, but it's PBS, so probably not. I'm glad you saw it, Santasha. If anyone else has like observations or wants to share what they felt or saw, that'd be great. If you have lingering questions or comments, we'll take those too.
And whatever your experience is, if you saw it, if you didn't, again, it's perfect because wherever you are is revealing what comes next. So please be patient with yourself. You're perfectly on time.
Yes. You're welcome. All right, guys, we will sign off now. Great, Monchelle, great, Jeannie. We love y'all. We'll see you next week. Bye.